We're going to see 1,000 soldiers on parade, both street lining and, of course, in horse guards. There are 200 horses, including some very special and very tall drum horses, I hope to introduce you to later. They actually have... Did you know, Miriam, that these horses have a rank? They have a military rank.
Did not know that.
The drum
they
horses,
salute at each other.
They're quite senior, you know. They're senior than a lot of the soldiers on parade. So they're major in rank, Juno and Apollo, and they're going to be carrying some very heavy kettle drums. We'll point them out later. But it's a very special day, but most importantly for the soldiers, because what they're going to have is an opportunity to parade and troop their colour.
Here we have footage of King Charles arriving at Buckingham Palace, the royal standard atop the vehicle. You can see the guardsmen there saluting as his escort arrives through the gates.
Charlie, you see the colour of the car there is a claret colour. That's been a traditional colour for royal vehicles for over 100 years, and later when the royal party come out in their carriages, I think you'll find that the carriages are also that same claret colour.
And of course, Grant, it isn't just the military who are on show today, it's also the royal family. We've already talked about the senior adult members of the royal family, but will the children be involved today? And our viewers like to look out and see what they're
Absolutely, the children. I'm sure we're all going to be wanting to kind of see the young children there. Obviously, when it comes to the actual balcony, historically we've got the children there. I think everyone will be looking to see what little Louis gets up to on this occasion, because I've noticed that over the years there have been different things that have happened. But even his father, Prince William, I mean, when he was 5 years old or something, I remember on the balcony, I think his cousin, Prince Zara, went to give him a little kiss or something, and he was horrified at this. So there's always been kind of fun with the royal children, but they very much get involved.
And we are just seeing on your screens, for those of you watching on television, another carriage departing from the state entrance of Buckingham Palace, making its way through the quadrangle and into the centre archway here. I cannot see quite yet who is in it. I believe it is the King and Queen. It is His Majesty the King and Queen Camilla exiting Buckingham Palace there. I can tell you that Her Majesty Queen Camilla is wearing a silk crepe dress with silver embroidery by Anna Valentine, a favourite designer of hers, and a hat by Philip Tracy. Her Majesty is wearing a Grenadier Guards brooch because, of course, the Queen is Royal Colonel of the Grenadier Guards.
And of course these positions are all relatively new. In the last couple of years we've seen lots of shifts within the royal family for the positions that they hold within the military camp.
We certainly do indeed, and of course it is the King and Queen. But you can just see, there you go, you just saw a quick shot of the Princess of Wales and her three children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis. The King, of course, being accompanied by the Royal Colonels, the Prince of Wales, the Princess Royal and the Duke of Edinburgh. The Prince of Wales is riding his own horse called Derby. The Princess Royal riding a horse called Noble. You can just see a shot there of the Princess of Wales, Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis. The Princess of Wales is wearing a dress coat by Catherine Walker, a kind of turquoisey coat colour, would you say, Pandora?
I'd say a turquoisey, yes, that's quite correct, Cameron.
And a hat by Juliette Botterill, and of course the Irish Guards regimental brooch, as she is Colonel of the Irish Guards, and Her late Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II's personal earrings, so pretty poignant for her to wear
and
her grandmother-in-law's earrings.
The fact that they have released this information, there's always the link to the late Queen, Her Majesty here, and that is obviously at the forefront of their minds and everything that they do. And the King very much has been stepping within her shoes and has had the right training for many, many years for this moment.
Absolutely, and you can hear cheers from the crowds who have been waiting patiently on the Mall. Just a shot there of Prince George and Prince Louis. Prince Louis there waving to the crowd down the Mall, as well as the Princess of Wales and Princess Charlotte as well. The King, of course, Colonel-in-Chief of the Household Division. He is wearing the uniform of the regiments trooping their colour this year, which, as we've been saying, is the Coldstream Guards. But just take a moment to think about Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis, still very young, being exposed to this kind of spectacle.
And so Prince Philip used to wear King George VI's cipher because he was, if you like, an aide de camp to the late king and didn't change it after that. And so it was very much an honour that he respected throughout his very long public life. The king looking immaculate there, wearing the garter sash, and the uniform, as we've said, is pretty hot, even in cooler weather. But His Majesty, of course, not on horseback. He rode a horse called Noble before, and Noble wasn't terribly well behaved. But I think it wasn't only that. The horses, even the experienced horses, can be temperamental. And I know that one or two of them will have been bribed with some extra strong mints beforehand.
We've seen the senior members of the royal family now on a covered platform preparing for the minute's silence, which of course is as a mark of respect to those who died in that Indian air crash this week.
Yes, the King personally intervening to ensure that this minute's silence upcoming shortly was a key part of this procedure. Let's listen in.
And those affected by the Indian airplane disaster. Would you please stand?
And Grant, we're waiting for the Sovereign now to lead off his division on the return to Buckingham Palace. I just have to say, reflecting on that, we do put on a good show.
We do. I mean, this is the thing. We're famous around the world for our pomp and circumstance, and this is a perfect example of what I see we as in the royal we, what we can achieve or what we can do. And as I said earlier on, this kind of thing is priceless, and it makes you feel very proud to be British, if I can say.
Well, we've got a comment from one of our viewers, Arnie. To those saying trooping the colour is irrelevant, this is a British tradition. I hope it continues for many years to come. And Michael, in recent decades, we've seen so many traditions and conventions eroded and discarded as ancient or not necessary anymore. But actually, it's things like this that remind us who we are, what it means to be British. What is there to tie us together if it's not a link to the past?
Miriam, you are spot on. And every country has its traditions. There are equivalents in most countries around the world, and they venerate different aspects of their own histories. This is our way of doing it. And by the way, it isn't just a tradition. It also actually carries a modern purpose. Because what it actually does, if you ask commanding officers and warrant officers, if you ask military sergeants, they will often tell you that training in this way for ceremonial parade duty is extremely good for discipline. Being encouraged to stand for long periods of time has a practical purpose. Whilst in operational duty, especially in camouflage and undercover, and the discipline and the attention to detail that's required has a modern purpose. So it isn't just it's an important tradition, but it actually has a practical operational purpose as well.
And we can see there the Sovereign and the Princess of Wales, the Queen, moving away as they prepare to return to Buckingham Palace. And Michael, you were speaking about the street liners. They will be giving a royal salute as His Majesty passes each position. They have been on parade now for several hours, awaiting this moment for his return. And once His Majesty and the guards have departed the parade square, as we're seeing now, with both Blues and Royals, lifeguards and members of the royal family marching into the distance there. The colour points will also march off, which will now signify the end of the parade. As you can hear some applause there breaking out on the parade square, because thousands are watching at the square itself.
Members of the royal family on the balcony ahead of this flypast, just getting underway as we speak. We can see the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester, the Duchess of Edinburgh, Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, King and Queen, Prince George, Prince Charlotte, Prince Louis, the Waleses and the Duke of Kent on that famous balcony. And we are hearing over our heads 4 Chinooks in a box formation fly over Buckingham Palace as we speak. I'm hoping we could maybe bring you pictures of the aircraft flying over very slowly over Buckingham Palace. Here we are. So these are the 4 Chinooks you're seeing on your screen in a box formation. On the left we have members of the royal family watching the flypast taking place. I can see Princess Charlotte perhaps talking to her father, the Prince of Wales. I can hear over my head now a Lancaster bomber from the Second World War, of course, part of the Battle of Britain memorial flight. We saw the Lancaster fly on VE Day just about a month ago, but of course the famous iconic aircraft that everybody, I think, knows about, harking back to a time of proper British patriotism, Pandora, and of course celebrating victory in Europe as well.
Yeah, and of course the little ones will know all the different planes now going past because they've seen it over the past few years on Trooping the Colour, so I'm sure they'll be looking out for their favourite.
They certainly will indeed. Of course, we've got a number of planes left to fly over. Of course, we are expecting the next wave coming over. Here we go. So there is 1 Phenom and 2 Texans flying over as we speak. So there are the 2 Texans and the 1 Phenom flying over flying over Buckingham Palace, just to the right of the palace. I'm looking at members of the royal family, the King and the Prince of Wales, just having a bit of a natter as those three aircraft fly over. Of course, all of these aircraft kind of congregate in formation over the southeast of England before flying down the Mall, over the City of London and down the Mall and over Buckingham Palace. So it takes quite a lot of choreography, Pandora. It's quite the challenge, perhaps.
Oh, very much so. This is... Oh, we can just hear another one now. You can usually hear them before you see them.
You can. This is the RAF A400 aircraft, if you wanted to know.
That was quite a large one, it has to be said. But as you can see, all the different interactions on the left-hand side with the royals, probably speaking about which one is which with their grandparents and sort of giving them a bit of a, right, this is this, expect this in a minute. And of course, just trying to keep everybody off, they're public-facing, got hundreds of people looking at them. So as I said earlier, probably very much being told to be on their best behaviour here. And of course, the King and Queen in the middle, and they do look very happy, it has to be said.
They do, and Prince Louis just stood in front of his father, the Prince of Wales. Here is the RAF Voyager aircraft, decked out in red, white and blue, accompanied by two RAF Typhoons. The Voyager, of course, is the aircraft used by His Majesty the King and senior politicians such as the Prime Minister to represent the United Kingdom abroad, so effectively the equivalent of Air Force One but for the United Kingdom. So of course that's going to have to fly over in this flypast on the King's birthday.
Yes, of course, and it goes without saying, obviously there have been working members of the royal family who have worked in the military who have a completely different affinity to some of these aircrafts as well, such as the Prince of Wales.
Absolutely, and of course the Prince of Wales and the King, both helicopter pilots themselves. The Prince of Wales is an RAF Search and Rescue helicopter pilots in Anglesey. We can see another plane just flying over now. That is an RAF P8 aircraft just flying over the palace. Now, I have sat here for many a flight pass over the last few years, Pandora. There is a big gap between the aircrafts, usually very quite a quick formation. Of course, it's a bit different this year. We're not entirely sure as to why, but what it does show us is the royal family, of course, overlooking their people who have all queued up on the Mall to see British pomp and pageantry in action, but also the very best of the British Royal Air Force in action.
Yeah, this is very much celebrating the Air Force today, as well as celebrating the King's birthday too. And there we go, there we see it, and we see three more there.
Yes, this is an RAF C-17 aircraft, which perhaps was poignantly quite famous for bringing the late Queen's coffin from Scotland back to London following her death in 2022. It also brought back a number of our fallen service personnel from Afghanistan and Iraq.
And that's exactly what I mean about the royal family having very much a different take with some of these aircrafts, which many people who are here won't actually know that, but that's a brilliant bit of intel there. Thank you, Cameron.
Yes, and two of the RAF C-17 aircraft was actually accompanied by two F-35 fighter jets, and just flying over our heads now are four RAF very noisy Typhoons. So four Typhoon aircraft flying over. I remember this time 2 years ago, Prince Louis just waving to members of the crowds there, seemingly a little bit ignoring the planes, but c'est la vie. I remember a few years ago for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee,
yes.
He had his hands in his ears because it was so loud.
He did. And at one point, I think Charlotte might have put a hand over something happened on the balcony. There was another moment, but there's been so many of these classic family moments over the years. Doesn't matter if you're part of the royal family or any family, these moments happen.
And here we are, the grand finale. 9 RAF Red Arrows flying over Buckingham Palace with their red, white and royal blue smoke down the Mall and over Buckingham Palace, the colours of the Union flag, and to King Charles's delight, it is biofuel that has ignited that fuel to create that smoke, Pandora.
It has indeed, and the crowd is cheering and clapping here. What a moment that must have been as well for him with the sustainable fuel, and it actually hasn't affected the colour or anything either, so you still get that magnificent display here.
You wouldn't have known, you certainly wouldn't have known. The royal family members there looking on as members of the crowd catch a glimpse and wave Union flags for national anthem. is being played as the royal family look on at the crowds, some of which have been waiting since 3 o'clock this morning, as we've been saying.